Good afternoon to one and all present here, and welcome back to the Training the Trainers program on climate justice law, governance, management and policy under the Monnet chair EUC-LAMP. Before we start with the post-lunch session, I would like to introduce you all to our resource person, Dr. Manik Prabhu Dhanorkar. Dr. Dhanorkar is an associate professor and deputy head of Symbiosis Center for Waste Resource Management, Symbiosis International Deemed University, Pune. We now start with the post-lunch session on environmental and climate change issues, which will include how to design and execute media campaign, movements and campaigns and case studies on NGO. Post which, our activity will be followed on preparing a plan for NGO and media campaign. I would now like to request Dr. Shashikala Gurpur to take the session.
So good afternoon one and all. Hope you are not feeling sleepy, but these are two new avenues of learning the skills to address the climate change and environment related issues. So the first approach is, as we in the earlier session, pre-lunch session, we concluded that media being active is very important. So if you scan through today's newspaper or any typical day's newspaper, how many environmental related issues are covered there? I am sure you will agree with me that barely anything is covered, right? Does it mean to say that positive or negative? And within the media, if you take a newspaper or if you take a magazine, there are different genre of content. Would you agree? So news is a content which is reflection of the reality. But you must also understand, news came from north, east, west, south, means what is actually happening and who, where, why, when, how. These W's and H's that Rudyard Kipling said, those are responded in a news story. But a news story is also reflection of who is reporting that story. So for the one who is reporting that story, familiarity with that story is very important, or interest in that story is important. To inculcate interest, their knowledge is also important. So that is about the content in the news form of story. So news is not news, it is a story because selective way of projecting the facts based on the writers or reporters choice. It makes it not so neutral. Okay. This is one point we have to understand. Second, if you look at the newspapers, how is the climate issue, newspaper or media, how is the climate issue addressed in other content? There was one advertisement, I do not know how many of you have seen it or remember, that this glamorous little girl is washing herself under a waterfall, and then she moves out, and then all these women, rural women in a Rajasthan setting, they are carrying the water on their head and they are walking, and all of them pour that water on her. I mean, first of all, there are other political issues in this, the hierarchy between women and gender, etc. But the major issue is how they are mocking at the difficulty of these rural women, or insensitive rather. That to carry that one pot of water, they walk miles and then they just splash it on this lady. I mean, even though it may be an advertisement of a few seconds, the message can be very insensitive to the climate issues, it can be very damaging. Finally, they had to call off that ad because there was an ethical objection to that. The third type of media content is feature stories or feature documentaries. So we are going to play before you some of the genre of these media content, and then we will make you reflect on it and design a climate change issue, and how will you design a media campaign for that. कैसे एक media campaign आप design करोगे इस issue पर. So why do we need the media campaign? If, I mean, all of us want our, how many of you do not want your photos on the newspaper at all, or on the media at all, or not to be seen on the TV at all? yeah, that is different class academics, but generally everyone wants to be visible, that is a social need, you know, you want to connect to others. Okay. If you do not appear on the media, or if the reality does not appear on the media, it does not exist. That is why there is so much of investment on becoming a news or becoming popular, becoming known, celebrities and all, because media is the one which conveys the existence of something to the whole community or to the whole set of readers. Therefore, the tendency to the need to be visible on the media is very important. That is the basic premise on which media campaigns are strategized or organized. Because if I tell you, traditionally what used to happen, they used to beat the drum and they used to say king is telling you that you do this or you are supposed to do, even now in villages panchayats announce like that. But then came a time communication had to reach widely to wider set of audience. Today if it does not appear in the media, the issue is not salient. If I tell that X is a very good speaker, I would be asked, but is that person of a high value? So, what is this high value? How many news items have come about that person, in which online medium you can see how many clicks are there. So, this kind of estimation that is associated, repute that is associated, this is a practical reality. So, if you do not exist on the media, you do not exist. So, to make the existence or salience of an issue, it is very important that we learn how to connect that issue and make it visible on the media. So, if you see a media campaign for a climate justice issue is organized for three reasons. One is to make people aware in general, second is to make people to be educated, and the third one is to mobilize public for a particular cause. Now, what is this education? I mean, if there is a news item like this little ad I saw, so I know about these women who carry the water. Now, I know that only one newspaper regularly writes on environmental issues, and that is the Hindu. I have not seen similar concern in Times of India or others, except personal reporters' personal interest in Times of India. There was one reporter we used to know, he used to come here, Shashwat. He used to selectively pick the issues and write. So, anybody has the memory of seeing any news item on environmental issue or climate justice issue recently? If you see weekly issues of the Hindu, there will be one or another item covered there, also the Hindu. And when I came to Maharashtra, I realized Pune and nearby areas had so much of environmental issues, I did not see the correlation in the media. Would I be right in saying that? Yes. Whereas you pick Deccan Herald issue, Deccan Herald issue is full of South India's environmental issues on a particular page. The science page is half dedicated to climate change or animal related issue. So, we will show you some simple sample news items, although they are in English. When you read that or see the pictures, you will make sense of it. Now, so what is this campaign? So, if I am running a campaign, once upon a time we ran a campaign, I told you, we were students then, Save the Western Ghat campaign. We saw that every week there was an item coming in the newspaper. So, to create an item, what did we do? We would hold awareness sessions, we would do a plantation drive, we would organize the tribals and hold a meeting with them. There would be banners like this only, banners. So, all those gave a visual appeal, then that led people to read. So, there were weekly one. So, like this we made statistics of this much, this much, this much, and then we would see it would be not only, it would be in the local language, but then we had some funding also. So, funding agents came from outside India, so they needed global visibility as well. So, we also made English versions of these campaigns and saw that they came on the national newspaper. So, this is the way in which we make media campaign to be very, very important propelling force for resolving the climate justice issues or seeking attention or making reform. So, first we have to decide what is our goal and who are the people who want to reach. If I want to reach only a set of college students, then I can do a little news, I can do a little flyer, you know, the word flyer, and then I can put it in the newspaper and give it. Suppose I want to do it for the Vimannagar area for a garbage issue, then I can make a flyer and put it in the newspaper which goes into those flats. If I want to see what is my goal and who is my customer or who is my audience, and then when will you connect? Suppose I am holding a protest tomorrow, I should not connect today, I should connect at least a few days in advance, and then I should also anticipate, I should inform the police as well, so that is the strategy part of it, but I am just telling you. And then why should you be chosen? You will be chosen if you have the knack of writing. So, there are two ways of writing. See, when we held this event also, prior to this we did a press release. That press release is pre-event press release. How do you write a press release? Again, who, where, who, why, when, what, context. The background, I said about the chair, I said about Symbiosis Law School, I said about this particular program as a deliverable, I said what are our expectations, what do we plan to do, what is the impact that we expect. So, this is press release, simple fact sheet that we are going to give. So, why choose you? How will you engage? You have to decide. In the campaign, you may be doing pre-press release. After this event happens, I will be doing post-event news items, and then I will decide that there should be a Twitter item, there should be an Instagram, because now it is not just media, social media also is there. And little clipping I will pick, I will make somebody to speak like Dhanurkar sir, Satya sir, Prakash sir, and then I will put that little clipping. So, this is how we design a multimedia campaign on one issue, highlighting different parts of that issue. Now, usually people who are in the media as employees, they are trained in this skill, but you and I also can do that, because today we are at an era of social media where users generate the content, right. If you look at YouTube for example, everybody has opportunity of using such open media. So, what is your core message and what are the important talking points? If the core message is about this garbage issue, what could be the other issue? We could have this kite flying festival, very controversial. Because of the kite flying festival, do you know how much harm is done to the bird population, and then it can also interfere with the aerial navigation. So, people did it in the past when the airspace was very, very free, but that time they used those very sensitive cotton threads or the jute threads, which were, see, whatever we used straight from the environment did not harm much. Today we are using nylon threads. So, these nylon threads are supposed to be very dangerous to the bird population, because they get strangulated and they can't escape, etc. So, this is, and there are other dangers also in kite flying. So, if you want to do a media campaign in the interest of the birds against this kite flying, you can imagine who are your audience, who will oppose you, what kind of opposition you will face, cultural opposition. Or for example, here this NGO ran this non-plastic Ganeshas. You know, during Ganesha festival in Pune, every household has a Ganesha. If that Ganesha idol were to be pure clay idol, in the beginning some NGOs and climate thinking people only started it, but now it has become mandatory. But still, that today we were discussing, still if we were to do the clay Ganesha campaign and then not waiting for the corporate van only or your van taking it to the river, because we, in our faith system, it has to be disposed in the water. Should it be only running water? Can't it be in a bucket that you dispose it and then you put it in a collection point and the collection point then leaves? So, these are the kinds of campaign issues that can come. So, its urgency, its impact and its need for collective action. So, that is how campaign is designed through the media in the form of an appeal, in the form of press release. You can also do press meet, so that maximum press people can be met at a time instead of sending it to every press. Nowadays online items also they take. So, a press release can be picked up by them as a news item, or they can do, what is it, they in Pune Mirror and all, they have this part where they say weekend events, or they will also say there is something curtain raiser. They use the word curtain raiser. So, before the campaign also you can raise awareness, during the activity also you can raise awareness, post the activity also you raise awareness. What is the philosophy? I said if you don't come in the media, you don't exist. I also said it is very important to keep the public memory, because public memory is very short. So, how do you keep the public memory? By revisiting that issue, because there is something called news value, you must understand. What becomes news is a very interesting point. Only the powerful become the news, or those who wield influence in the society become news. Today Ram Lalla is news. I mean, no other issue. Today if there is one big bomb and somebody dies, that will not come, because news value is to what is more important politically. I am giving example. I am not saying it is right or wrong, but news value is based on that urgency, on how many maximum people are impacted. So, in that news value ocean, how do you make space for your issue is very, very important. How do you make issue? It will be very interesting if somebody can write on the climate change, climate friendly approach in the Ayodhya incident, Ayodhya ceremony. We had Kumbh Mela some years ago in Nashik. So, how many people come in Kumbh Mela? Crores of people come. So, how systematically they manage, how do they manage, how do they do the waste management, how do they do the transportation, how do they relieve crowd. So, that can be a feature story. There was a feature story which made the court to take suo motu action against Sri Ravi Shankar's global convention, because it was done on the banks of the river Yamuna, and National Green Tribunal foisted crores of rupees of fine on them. So, this is media campaign, this is the power of the media. So, if you say I have no desire to appear on the media, it will be politically wrong, because if you do that, you do not exist. You need not have the desire, but you should not have the disdain also, because if you want to be advocating a cause, supporting a cause, or if you want to be there, then you have to be open to this influence of the media. Now, the last question is if you are not very well known, but you want to garner public attention to that, one strategy they use is using the influencer. For example, how Amir Khan was associated with Pani Foundation, right? Nana Patekar was associated with farmer suicide issue. So, these are the way in which the influencers are the ones who are going to help. I mean, when we are doing campaign, we do not have much money, because these celebrities will charge by hour. So, how do we handle that? You can connect it to something that they have said and you can use. There are various ways of developing a communication which will have that impact. So, when you are designing, you think of who is your target. Is it social media? How many word limits they have? What are the usual ways in which news items appear there? In that way, you have to design your message. And then traditional media, as I told you, there are different ways of features, news items, stories, photos, and then there are online platforms, webinars, podcasts, YouTube. So, this is where you design. And when you design, human brain's capacity and peculiarity, you must notice. Always we have a tendency to look on right hand side top. So, it is very important that when you are advertising, I always insist that SLS advertise if it is print media. Today we do not depend much, but at that time I always said put it on right hand side top, whichever page it is, and that visual thing. Second is, visuals are more attractive to the human brain. So, pictures speak louder than words, they say, which is very true, because we connect more to diagram and pictures rather than words. And then the stories, if you use a storytelling mode in terms of an incident happening somewhere, see today also when the experts spoke about their experience, you all were very attentive, because our mind connects to, from as children our mothers told us stories, right. So, it is an archetype. Therefore, such stories where there is importance of justice, there is vulnerability, they will attract the attention. So, when you design the campaign, you find out who is affected, what are the more details, within those word limit you try to capture. This does not happen in the first draft, you go on truncating or editing your draft. So, when you design, there are also hashtag campaigns, there are petitions, direct petition to those who are in authority, or general public fundraising campaigns. So, there are different campaigns that you can use. And then you can also have an event. Nowadays online event also you can do, and then you can do local initiatives also. Cleanup drive is one of them. Supporting somebody else's event also is one of them, collaborating with them. Workshops you can conduct, and advocacy campaigns you can do, where you have the fact sheet, and then you have some kind of a, support panda, something like that. So because panda is a population which is on the verge of extinction. Similarly, penguin rescue movements, there could be tiger movement. So that is one. And the other is, if you want to appeal to the state or the government, make a policy brief, create an alternative policy, publish it in the news item. So what kind of content? 6-7 types of content we could think of. Now we have to look at, one is short term is making people aware, then also communities who are not, who are suffering injustice, making them to be empowered, making them to be visible, and then long term you can see how you can go on repeating this campaign. Many times issues are forgotten. So here I bring you to sample media items, and then we want you to spot the issue, who wrote it, where was it organized, what is the source, what kind of approach has been taken. Did we distribute it, any media item? Yeah. So we request you to see it. Now second point, I mean that is only a sample given to you. Now the exercise for you is to look at one issue, like for example any kind of climate action, where you look at the concept and then identify one target audience and create the core message and look at a visual representation. You can say a photo of blah blah, or and present and discuss, and you reflect and you say what do you want to achieve, and if that does not come, is it just awareness, is it empowerment, is it deeper education, is it follow up for a policy change, is it to prevent that harm. So what will you do if your intended impact does not happen? Okay. So this is the kind of bullet point. So we will have, we can't give much time, but just go through this exercise for how much time we have, because we are already in 3:30. So that is the quickest one. The other one is on NGO, but this is the one we wanted you to reflect for some time. Anybody has done a news campaign or media campaign already? Any publication on an issue in a news as a news item, or letter to the editor, in your high school, in your earlier college stage, किसी ने किया है क्या कोई न्यूज़पेपर में लिखने का काम? या टेल अस. या ओके. Did you do it in particular relation to climate change or environment any time?
Right. So Enactus as an organization stands for environment, not climate change in particular, but sustainability, and it's basically about coconuts. So how coconuts are non-biodegradable in nature, right? So we make products out of coconuts, like
very good.
scented candles and
change.
planters.
Yeah, yeah.
So just the marketing for that. So those were the campaigns.
So your campaign was on marketing it.
It was a marketing campaign for Enactus, and the project is called Project Zuri. Zuri meaning beautiful. So that was what the main campaign was about. We've done multiple campaigns. It's an organization that's been running in our college since past 8 years, I think. And this year when we got into the leadership team, we did a lot of campaigns with...
Congratulations. It's an alternative lifestyle thing,
Right,
which could
right.
also pass off as a green initiative.
Yes.
Now,
It's a green startup itself.
Green startup.
Yes.
So you did a campaign. I wouldn't call it as marketing. It's more of awareness about what you're doing that
Okay.
you have done.
Yeah.
So how did you do? Which newspapers or magazines you picked? How many words items you have done?
So basically, one of our team members had a contact in Times of India. So we keep on having our stalls at different places where we sell those products. So recently we had a stall at High Spirits. So there's a thing called High Souk at High Spirits. So we had a stall over there, and we keep looking for flea markets all across Maharashtra. And whenever we have a stall, our sales, XYZ sales, and the NGO that we're collaborated with, like we were collaborated with Hope NGO in Viman Nagar itself. So after our sales were made, those women were gotten their first money that they earned from making those products, and that was covered by a local journalist, and that was featured in Times of India as well.
So
And,
they
yeah.
they didn't highlight their organization, but they highlighted their beneficiary. Very interesting
Yes.
strategy. So thank you very much for that. It's a good contribution. Anybody else? So what we did when we were doing college studies, I'll come back to you. We had an NGO which we used to take students to learn about child labor with the education. It was an NGO started by Nandana Reddy, Pattabhiram Reddy's daughter, who was a child labor activist. So there the children used to be residentially there from absolutely poor background, and they used to be skilled, and they even represented in the United Nations the rights of children and all. So these children used to make beautiful products, and we created a concept called Our Shop. So once a year, these children's whatever product is there, that used to be sold in the Manipal city center, and all the institutes will be invited, and they would get all sold out. So there was no pressure on them to produce more, but whatever they produced got a good value. So this is also a kind of campaign in the right sense, may not be connected to environment, but in the right sense. But now Dhanurkar sir, his expertise is used in creating resource out of waste. Some products he is also able to encourage to be developed. Now if like bags and purses and decorative items, now they could also need, so those are the positive things, adaptation strategies, but which also helps to relieve the poverty of these women. It provides them an opportunity to sell these products, and they could be a good substitute for otherwise environmentally damaging products. So good one. Yeah, you wanted to talk.
I just wanted to highlight one more addition to this, the option that you have given. So using WhatsApp groups for popular awareness these days is a very popular medium. It doesn't require a lot of money, but also has the potential to reach. There was this campaign where they were planning on getting the metro constructed. I'm a part of a WhatsApp group. So they were planning to get the metro constructed through the Vetar Tekri place, which is an ecologically sensitive
Zone. Yeah.
And then there were a lot of these social activists who created these WhatsApp groups and got thousands of people involved in that. And then because of the sheer number of people who were supporting it, the member of parliament had to intervene, come, and then they met physically every Friday. So the group's name was Fridays for Future of Pune. And then the news spread like wildfire, and then they shared information about why it is such an ecologically sensitive zone, why getting the metro through that place. And because every society, every housing society, every locality, every institute has a lot of these WhatsApp groups with hundreds of members in it. So even if you share such news items and such snippets through these mediums, it actually has the potential of reaching far and wide, especially if the issue is more localized. And then the consequence of the same was that eventually the state had to put a pause on it, and then they said that we will rework on it. So there was a campaign, there was an issue, and then there was immediate impact for the same as well, all without spending a huge amount of money.
Excellent, excellent. So it's social media strategy, which was very well conceived, and the picking of the issue was very good, and the issue is an eco-sensitive zone being used as the means for or as a point in the metro. Very good, thank you. This is a great rich contribution. So now, but how did they design the message? Any memory?
Yeah. So WhatsApp
how big, how many words?
Yeah.
How did they begin? How did they continue? How did they say? How did they put that impactful word seeking the support?
Correct. So initially it was fairly long worded messages. Later they moved to like small impactful paragraphs with posters and with some sort of pictures attached. Then they used to share links to government resolutions, EIA 2020 and all those notifications. And they used to say that people who want to read further can refer to this link. And read. Yeah. So initially they used to grab the attention of people by colorful pictures and with short snippets of those news items and with a very catchy headline. And then later on towards the end of that note, they used to give articles for people to read, and then they used to say if you want to contribute, then you can come this Friday for a meeting, and they used to take up a public place, no investment again. So initially the number of people used to come were hundreds, then later on there were like several hundreds who started coming in, and then the other local media got the hint of something like this happening. So they started covering these news items.
This is called agenda setting.
Yeah.
So when you do in one medium, here it is social media, earlier we used to do it in local media, that sets the agenda for the national media, whereas in this case it sets the agenda for the print media of the local circulation.
Correct. So for one of the meetings, even though we never called any print or electronic media, there were representatives of local newspapers, Pune Sakal and like Pune Mirror and all, who came out of curiosity to see how many people turn up, and then they later took it up. And that's when Supriya Sude and others came to know that, oh, there are thousands who are really interested in the issue. Then she realized that this might have political implications. So for one of the meetings, few months later, she herself turned up, maybe for political mileage or for other things.
Yeah,
But then at least there was an impact, and then the government realized that this can be political harakiri, and therefore they decided to pause it for a bit.
So this is a good case study of designing a campaign, picking an issue, designing a campaign, and then building on it for impact and then achieving the result. This could also be a good example for creating a momentum and that becoming widespread, and then setting the agenda of national importance because the parliamentarians and also state importance, because state legislators also were drawn to it, because everything finally hinges on vote bank politics. So the campaigns drawing maximum people is very important. But what is strategically interesting in this case is, which connects to the topic that I am going to quickly introduce to you, which is about movements. When you design a campaign is part of the movement. Campaign is also one of the important agenda in an NGO work as well. Okay? So we have to think of them in a connected fashion. Here there was no NGO involved, but definitely some of them would have picked on the strategies used by NGO. So what it requires, earlier I told you, research, what worked, what didn't work. So that kind of strategic decision and approach. So anybody who has designed a news item or anything, campaign, or anybody wants to respond? If anybody is ready, I will be happy for 1 minute or 2 minutes, you can tell me.
Ma'am, how will civil society get involved here? Because NGOs are still fairly formalized.
Yeah.
They may have a budget for something like this, but impromptu civil society, maybe that's the...
Civil society is through a movement, I mean with some leaders who may be tricked or advised, or I should not use the word tricked, but they may be co-opted as experts by the NGOs. Like for example, we were students, we were teachers in the college, but we were called by an NGO saying we do not know this area, or you have written about this area, so why do not you come and advise us, or why do not you join us in this campaign. So in India that kind of public intellectualism has come on a low key after 2014 with Teesta Setalvad meeting some kind of a testing time. But otherwise India is one country which has a very vibrant civil society movement. We had Gene campaign, we had, I mean these people wrote, they were veering between scholarship. Most of them were scholars who applied their knowledge to the field, whether it is Vandana Shiva through Nistards or Suman Sahai through Gene campaign. These are all very important movements which are bearing on biodiversity and climate change. But what happened now is, because there is a very strict foreign contribution regulation which were usually supporting these movements, and non-resident Indians also used to support, there is a kind of slow movement here. But then those who are doing good work, they are not troubled by the government. Awareness, education, these are non-harming. Like I ran an NGO in Mangalore on human rights and gender. And in addition to that, we put the gender alongside many other human rights issues, including climate change. We did not have any problem, even now that campaign is running, because rights issue is one issue where no one can touch you, because you are helping them to understand, you are helping them informally to solve their problem, you are getting them legal aid also, and you are also trying to reconcile, mediate. There are so many facets to this kind of a work. So, there that is why this quick take is on how different actors involved here. They can be groups, they can be, I mean even civil society groups can be in one sense non-governmental organizations. An organization does not mean something which is an office and an organizational structure only. Informally organized groups also act, like we had something called trainers collective. So, we used to do a lot of paralegal training with the teachers, with the illiterate groups also. You could do that with the form of games and things like that. So, basically NGOs, non-governmental organizations, whether in the form of a civil society movement or action group, they are informal groups who have a cooperative approach on a single issue based or multiple issue based activity. So, in climate governance they may play an institutional role where they may give you the data. For example, Center for Development, I have given one article from them, Suniti Narayanan's NGO, that is more on institutional role. She gives excellent reports. For example, food safety report first came from her, and then economic role where they do a lot of fundraising. Greenpeace, for example, Nyamgiri Hills movement was supported by Greenpeace, international NGO. Then we have World Wildlife, WWF. Then societal role where the NGO may organize fisher people, or they may organize Eskimos, they may organize people who are in the, troubled by climate justice, or migrants or refugees. And then the international role where they act as a lobbyists at the United Nations deliberation tables, negotiations. So, there also NGOs come. So, what are NGO strategy? They use lot of strategies, but mainly they frame the issue, they set the agenda, they lobby, they campaign, they give technical assistance, they monitor, they implement and they comply. Like you had Satya sir earlier, who is an engineer by orientation, philosopher by, I mean he believes in the environmental philosophy, and he is formulating actions and he is giving knowledge as well. So, in our area, environmental area, mainly expert bodies like governmental panel for climate change and other NGOs were acting. So, here advocacy is there, policy influence is there, capacity building is there, and then we have data collection, then we have climate project implementation and engaging the community. Now, here if you want to create your own NGO, you just, we want you to visualize that also. Write what you want to do among these. Do you want to do policy influence? Now you are a professor. So, or you are a student, do you want to go there and do implementation of the project as a volunteer? Do you want to do capacity building and awareness as a volunteer with the illiterate people or the local people? Do you want to bring data from there, taking your questionnaire and talking to them? Do you want to implement those projects, engage in the activity? So, you decide what is your mission and what is your plan, how do you comply with those, how to take money and maintain your records, keep your team's salaries and things like that, and how do you engage other stakeholders, and how do you do the fundraising. Mostly fundraising comes from grants, they come from donations, sometimes individual funds also, and then capacity building, advocacy, policy influence, community outreach. Then you have to do important thing, we used to do every month review meetings, these are very important. How we are meeting all these goals that we have, is our mission fulfilled or not, how far are we, how did this campaign go. So, you understand one NGO. So, here I want you to play that website of, just see the website of one NGO which I will show you, and that will also help you to see the example which I gave you, media campaign example also, how did they engage in that. So, you did not put that linkage which I gave. So, what to do, those 7 points I have given you, and the elaborate manual will be there with you, and there is a legal booklet, but if you contact any CA or lawyer, it is not difficult to register an NGO, but it should be not for profit. Okay. Yeah. Now, look at this. I want you to see the web analysis. I think that part did not come in the presentation. Look at this, look at their, I mean, this is like virtual visit to an NGO like Greenpeace. See their publications, press release, and then they have the stories, the act, explore how you can contribute, how you can explore, how you can donate. they are telling Bangaloreans, let's unjam the city, important climate change issue, transport, right. So, how do they word that message? And then they say join our tribe, volunteer with us. So, this is the donate one, explore you see, and here you see biggest of Greenpeace ships 2020, biggest see they do not say, look at the word they have used, conservation victory. Conservation is part of the climate change and environment related action, and then they say climate change is here, means they are highlighting an issue. So, how they use the communication and media campaign process through the website and the evidences of that, their successful campaigns. So, popular stories are these successful campaign, and then there is also see there is a case for feminist city, then there are circles of solidarity, how the farmers from Kodal have come together. Anybody has visited any website of any NGO or climate change related NGO? These are all your learning avenues. So, please, website is nowadays it is just like visiting that NGO actually. One more we will show, see very interesting how they involve children there, right, in planting etc. So, quickly go to WWF website and success stories. I will not go too much because we have to vacate the platform for Prakash Rao sir. And 4 o'clock Cloud Alvarez, who has actually run a movement for very long, environmental movement in Goa against mining, and who has been also an NGO person who has established his own NGO. That will be more authentic to listen to, just like how Shivam was here. But right now I wanted to give you a conceptual understanding broadly. Now look at this, this is looking at, if Greenpeace was looking at overall green concepts, climate, environment, WWF looks at wildlife and life as such, okay, biodiversity. So, sustainably managed seas, 1000-year-old dish alive, strong US policies to protect nature being advocated, so advocacy. And then you see rebuilding trust as Davos after COP28 campaign, global campaign. So, there are very interesting things here. If you open the website, you will see exotic eagle stories, then bee stories and animals which are on the verge of extinction, prohibiting trade on such protected endangered species. So, very and international trade also, not only Indian trade, but also and then here track the connection between forest loss and human health, more knowledge is being given. So, you should look at these are live projects which are ongoing, and it is a knowledge which is very practical. We watch online things for some other things, right, for entertainment, recreation. So, you can use it very richly for knowledge and skill building. So, with that I pause for now. Your exercises are there. One exercise is designing a press campaign, media campaign. Second is to design your own NGO, blueprint of an NGO. With that I pause. Thank you very much. Session.
Do we give them time for this exercise?
Said no, it's late already. So 3:30, because Cloud is going to continue after Cloud Alvarez. Yeah. So yeah, when Cloud sir comes on, you can pause and then you can continue after Cloud sir. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you. Exercise, we will be giving you 5-10 minutes after. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving us the media scan on climate issues and also giving us a hand-holding session on planning and preparing a media and NGO campaign.